Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you're well. Thought I'd make a video while these topics are kind of still relevant. First, when I was coming out here, I touched the outside of this railing, and it's got a sticky black goop on there because I think the lady who was in this apartment complex before I moved in, I think she lit it on fire and they must have sprayed some type of fire retardant. I think she put something on the stove and took her dog for a walk. So, smart. But I wanted to mention, or I forgot to tell you guys, when I got back from my trip and I was in the airport, I was in a wheelchair and I was wheeling past a gift shop and I saw a magazine, a People's magazine, with Selma Blair on the cover, and I think she was bald on the cover, I can't remember, but that's because she's going through the treatment that I actually moved to Ottawa for in the first place, or the one I wanted to be included in, and that's the HSCT, which is a bone marrow transplant, they call it, but I think it's the hematopoietic stem cell treatment. I can't pronounce the first word. I don't know what the first word is, but it's the bone marrow transplant, and it's the one where the girl in Ottawa about 15 years ago now, at least, she went through it. She was having real struggles with her MS. I think she needed her boyfriend or husband to cook for her and help her shower and all that, and she went through that experimental, at the time it was experimental, and she like I think she spent a lot of time in bed, and now she has regained most of her life back, so she's able to, like, I think hike and ski and all that. It just comes with some side effects. I think there are side effects from the heavy chemotherapy. So yeah, what they basically do is give you high doses of chemotherapy and kill your immune system, and then they use your own stem cells to rebuild the immune system, and then it has no memory of the past attacks on yourself. It's pretty wild, but it's kind of similar to just restarting your computer or your phone or something. That always works, doesn't it? Just reboot it and it'll know what to do. Life is so crazy. But I wanted to mention also that she's been seen in a lot of photos in LA riding around on a walking bike, which this name brand one is called the A-Linker, and it's probably the only one out there. But the lady that invented it, I think she lives around here, maybe in Montreal or somewhere in Quebec, but she invented it, and it's a walking trike. So there's two wheels at the front, one at the back, and no pedals. So it's pretty cool. You basically sit down like you're on a regular bike, and it just takes all the weight off your legs, and you're able to just kind of motor on. And I think from what I see online, the lady who invented them, they do a lot of campaigns. I think around the world there's like campaigning to fundraise to get one for people. It's a really cool idea, and I see on Instagram every day more and more people are getting them, and I think they're a big sell because it just gives people independence that aren't able to go out and walk around and get tired. You're still sitting, but you're able. There's no pedals, and it's kind of like a Flintstones bike. You just kind of motor, and I think part of the sell is, like, from what I see, is you're at eye level, so you're not in a wheelchair. You're kind of sitting up high, like bike height, and it just people like that you're interacting like at eye level. So that's awesome. But it's cool that she has been seen using one, and promoting them, but I actually have one in my apartment, and I've been using it throughout the week. When people go to work, I use it in the hallway, motor up and down the hallway. But I've been using it to get prepared for a little event on September 8th. It's either 1 or 2 kilometers, but it's a hospital fundraiser, and Liquid Gym has convinced me to do that. So they've brought over one of these walking bikes, the Linker, and it's great. It's great. But another thing I wanted to mention was I use a circulation booster, which is basically just a TENS machine. It's a circular pad you put on the floor that has foot pads, and you plug it into the wall, and it shocks your feet. So it's just like a regular TENS machine. It actually has regular TENS machine ports, so it has the electrode patches where you put it on your muscles and help alleviate pain or whatever people use them for. But this part that I like is the foot part, where you put your feet on it, and it's better if you kind of if you moisten the foot pads, you get better contact and better. You don't have to crank up the machine as high, because the machine goes from 0 to 100. But I use it, if you wet the machine, you only need it, for me, only about 30-40 intensity. And it shocks your feet and your calf muscles and just pumps the blood. I think it produces endorphins or releases endorphins, and it's just great for people that have poor circulation. And somebody who's actually promoting it is Guy Lafleur. So the old hockey player Guy Lafleur does some of the commercials, I think. But it's really great. I love it. This one's actually different than my older one. So I had the older one, and I plugged it into the wall, and it made a popping noise. And then I think I had that one since 2013, and I loved using it. But it stopped working a couple of weeks ago, and I got this newer one off Amazon, and it's really cool. It doesn't have wheels on the bottom, but almost like a rolling pin or a doweling type from east to west on the unit. So when it's on the floor, and while you're getting the electrical stimulation, you can kind of rock it forward and back, and kind of just it's just great. I used it yesterday, and I love it. I'm going to use it again today. But it's almost like you're going on a snowboard, going from heel side to toe edge, heel edge, and it's just another way to kind of help get the blood flowing and get the mind-muscle communication. Sometimes my feet are like a little bit numb, and it's just good. Like, one of the tests they do at the hospital is like a metal rod that it vibrates. So they do something and get it to start vibrating, and then they put it on your toe, and they ask you to let them know when you can no longer feel it shaking. So I guess a lot of people with neurological impairment or whatever, they'll say it, they can't feel it when the doctor can probably still feel it shaking in their hand. But I kind of feel like with the circulation booster, sometimes if I can't make those movements with my toes, when it's getting shocked by the machine, it's great because I can still feel it. So it's just great. After using it, the blood is just pumped throughout your body, and the endorphin rush, and it feels great. So that's pretty much all I can say about that. But it comes with a remote, so you can turn up the intensity or whatever you want. But yeah, and then I guess I've had a few tweaks to my diet. so I've kind of just learned a bit more. So I mentioned in the one of the last videos, I mentioned fermented foods, but also sulfur-rich foods. So I eat a lot of vegetables now, like asparagus, Brussels sprouts, and a lot of spinach. And I've added garlic, I've heard is good. And I ordered some kimchi, but they were out of stock, and I actually had groceries delivered just before I started making this video. And he didn't show up with the kimchi, so that sucks, because I've heard that's another good thing for your gut biome. But yeah, so I guess I just wanted to mention those couple of things, and maybe I'll make a video on my actual diet, exactly what I eat, in another video. And but thanks, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you later. Cheers.